Hey everyone, welcome to Area 616. Last Halloween I made a video called Marvel's Supernatural: The Next Defenders. In it I proposed that Marvel should make something along the lines of the Netflix deal with someone, specifically mentioning AMC, and then make a total of 7 shows for Ghost Rider, Man-Thing, Blade, Elsa Bloodstone, Werewolf by Night, Brother Voodoo, and then culminating in a Howling Commandos team-up show. Looking back, that's a preposterous amount of shows, and many of the characters like Brother Voodoo, Werewolf by Night, and Elsa Bloodstone would have a very difficult time standing on their own. On top of that, AMC just simply could not afford a Ghost Rider or Man-Thing show. In my research, I found that the average budget for episode for The Walking Dead is $3 to $3.5 million, which is not enough, and that's their most popular show right now. That budget would cut it for Daredevil or Luke Cage, but not for Ghost Rider or really even Blade. So today, I've updated my pitch, bringing down the number to 3 shows and 2 miniseries about supernatural characters that really deserved them. So first off, who would Marvel make this deal with? I did research looking into all the places with the best budgets, looking especially into streaming platforms, and decided on Amazon Prime. When I think of original shows for streaming, I immediately think of, in order, Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. So far, Marvel's joined with Netflix and Hulu, so why not Amazon? On top of that, we know they could afford to make these. Amazon is a very big company, and their most successful show, The Man in the High Castle, is not a cheap series. According to the showrunners, that show was too expensive for network TV, which is why Amazon picked it up. We don't know the budget for it, but I estimate it to be maybe in the $5 to $6 million range, which is around what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. usually has, meaning it's exactly what Ghost Rider would need for an 8-episode season. So, let's go over each show. Ghost Rider. Obviously, Ghost Rider is a big one. If you've been watching me for a while now, you know I'm pretty vocal about how much I desperately want a show about Ghost Rider, but he's the perfect character to lead Marvel's supernatural TV slate. So I say, bring back Gabriel Luna and Lorenzo James Henry as Robbie and Gabe Reyes, respectively, and rework some of Johnny Blaze's characters to fit with Robbie, specifically Roxanne Simpson as the love interest, and Michael Battolino as an LA detective and eventual villain. Speaking of which, for the first season, I'd love to see the Dogs of Hell play some kind of role, specifically led by reimagined versions of Harlan Kruger and Dylan Zarro, aka Z-list Marvel villains Hangman and Bullet Biker. You might be thinking this sounds pretty lame to have them be the big Season 1 villains, but I'd like to see either Blackheart or Zarathos play a role. Beyond Season 1, I'd love to see Mephisto, Lilith, Decay, and Zadkiel come into play as well. Blade. Blade's also a very obvious one, and much less expensive than Ghost Rider. A lot of people would want to see Wesley Snipes come back for the role, which he won't. That's not to say he wouldn't want to, it's just that Marvel will 150 million% want to cast his fresh face, if only just to avoid confusing people into thinking the old Blade movies take place in the MCU. I would, however, love to see Snipes play Jamal Afari, the guy who trains Blade to fight vampires. This show would be full of action and one-liners and would have a pulpy, almost B-movie feel to it, though never too campy and certainly grounded in a way. I'd like to see someone like Draconis serve as the villain in Season 1, who's actually a preacher and a vampire, meaning things like holy water don't affect him. It'd be a nice change-up. Beyond that, obviously Dracula and Deacon Frost, as well as Lilith and Morbius the Living Vampire. A lot of people think Blade and the next one on this list are going to get movies, which they might, but they just seem too dark or complex to me for that. I do think they both work best on TV. Moon Knight. Now, the version of Mark Spector I'm suggesting here wouldn't be quite as clear-cut supernatural as he is in the comics. In the comics, he was given his powers by the Egyptian god Khonshu. But then Khonshu entered his mind, his mortal brain couldn't handle it, and he split into multiple personalities. Here, I think it'd be interesting if perhaps in the show it's not quite so clear if he really does have an Egyptian god in his head or if he's just insane, with the show perhaps giving pointers to both sides. Now, I don't know how long that would last. They'd probably need to give an answer eventually, but I just think it'd be a really interesting thing to explore. You might think that would take the supernatural out of the character, but with this deal, I think the one thing that would connect all of these characters is their horror elements. Not that these shows would just be straight up horror shows, but they would embrace the scarier aspects of their characters. Blade has vampires, Ghost Riders has demons and hell, not to mention the main character is essentially a crazy, possessed serial killer with a flaming skull for a face. And with Moon Knight, it'd be more of a psychological thriller, with you never really knowing how much you can trust the main character. Man-Thing. This one would be a 6-episode miniseries. Man-Thing isn't an easy character to adapt, just because, well, he doesn't really talk. That's why this miniseries would be about Man-Thing, but it would follow Gwyneth Burke, who here would be a local Citrusville journalist doing a piece on the 2-year anniversary of the disappearance of the renowned professor Ted Sallis, only to discover that there's more to the story than meets the eye, which leads her to find out about Man-Thing and uncover some kind of big conspiracy involving Ted Sallis. It'd be a little different from the comics. Like, I don't think it'd be a super soldier serum or AIM here, but I would still think there's a super cool story involving the nexus of all realities here. And let's not forget Jennifer Kale, a sorceress in Citrusville, who could also play a role. This might sound uninteresting to a lot of Marvel fans as it's a lot less action-based, but to me, it sounds awesome, and something I'd really like to see. Midnight Suns. As the name suggests, this would be a team-up story between Ghost Rider, Blade, Man-Thing, and a couple more. I don't think Moon Knight would be here. He certainly could, but even if they do upplay the supernatural elements of his character, he's so different from the others, he might feel out of place on a team. So here I think it'd be Jennifer Kale, Werewolf by Night, and either Elsa Bloodstone, Damon Hellstrom, or both. The villain would probably be Mephisto trying to destroy Earth or something like that, but I just think this would be a really cool thing to see. I really want to see Marvel embrace their darker, supernatural characters, and I think a Defenders-esque deal with Amazon is a perfect place to do it. But that's my updated version of the Marvel Supernatural pitch. Ghost Rider, Blade, Moon Knight, Man-Thing, and Midnight Suns, all on Amazon Prime. But what do you guys think? Do you like my updated version more or less? What would you add or detract? Let me know all your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Ghost riders in the sky.